I am Dave Henning, executive coach with the John Maxwell team. And today my guest is Steve Hopper from Steve Hopper International. And Steve is a motivational speaker, a best-selling author, and a peak performance influencer. I love that. So, Steve, share with us, first of all, welcome, by the way.
Hey, Dave, thanks. I'm humbled and honored to be able to be interviewed here on your show, man. This is amazing. Thanks for having me.
So how in the world did you get into professional speaking? Tell me about that.
Oh, my goodness. What a question, right? Well, I guess I should take everybody back a little bit. Becoming a professional speaker, full-time motivational speaker, wasn't really a choice of mine. It wasn't a childhood dream. It was something that the pathway was laid out, I guess you could say, that led me to this place that I'm at. And it's a pretty long story, but obviously I'm going to give you a Reader's Digest version here today. But, I grew up with the dream of wanting to be a football player. I started playing football at a very young age, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. And when I got into high school, the opportunities were there for the taking, and I had the opportunity to go to the next level. But, my senior year in high school, I would make a split-second decision one night that would literally change the course of my life forever. It was a Friday night high school keg party. Got invited by some friends to go down to this party in the South Tampa area here in Tampa Bay. And at this party, it was a typical high school keg party, hundreds of teenagers, bonfire, keg of beer, doing what we had no business doing at 16 and 17 years old. And while we're at this party, one of my friends got into an argument with another teenager from a rival high school. Big fight ensues. I engage in the fight. When the smoke clears, 3 days later, sheriff's department's at my parents' house with a warrant for my arrest. One of the teens that I had hit during the altercation had slipped into a coma. And David, at that moment, everything in my life changed. It was almost like the clock stopped ticking in my life and my future became very uncertain. My dad turned me into the jail. This is, again, my senior year in high school. They revoked my bond because they didn't know if this young man was going to live or die. They didn't know if they were going to charge me with murder or attempted murder. So I literally, in my senior year in high school, sat in the county jail for 90 days waiting to find out if this young man was going to live or die. And after 90 days, called home one night. My mom answered the phone and said that he had come out of the coma. And it was the best news I'd ever heard in my life. But, when I speak at the high schools and middle schools, I always try to impart on our youth that when you make bad decisions in life, there are almost always bad consequences that come along with those choices. And for me, those consequences were going to be great. Again, making a long story short for you here today, for that one split-second decision, that one choice, that one lapse in judgment, they sentenced me to 10 years in Florida State Prison at 17 years old. So, nothing in life had prepared me for the world that I was entering into. I got sent to one of the worst prisons in Florida at the time, gang violence daily to riots weekly, fought for my life on numerous occasions, and, saw just unspeakable things while I was there. If I could explain what hell on earth might be like, it would have been that facility that I was at. It was about a year into my incarceration, and it was lights out time, and that door slammed shut on that prison cell, and there I was in the pitch darkness, by myself. And in that moment, it was, every emotion, that particular night, every emotion you could imagine just consumed me. Hopelessness, helplessness, remorse, fear, regret, you name it. It consumed me to the point where I crouched down in the corner of that cell, began to cry, and began to really contemplate the direction of my life. Matter of fact, I actually contemplated suicide that night in that cell. And, I'd come to a crossroads, David. I had two choices in my life, get up or give up. And so that night I had a spiritual awakening, if you would, as well, in that cell. I won't go into that here with you today, but it was definitely a spiritual awakening. God showed up that night, and a major shift was created in my life that night in that cell. But I had, I was 1 year into a 10-year sentence, so I still had 7 years to do, or I still had 9 years to do. And I knew that if I was going to survive, I needed to go into survival mode. So not only did I begin to study everything that was going on around me, the people, and in doing so, I learned amazing things about people, how they interact with each other, etc. But also, I knew that I needed to develop myself from the inside out. So I began to eat, sleep, drink every ounce of self-development material that I could get my hands on, literally. And for 7 years, that's what I did. I ended up doing a total of 7 years on that 10-year sentence. I went in at 17 years old, got out at 24 years old. And, I had no idea what I would use all that material for one day. I was just trying to better myself. I had no idea that at this point in my life, I'd be an international speaker, traveling, speaking to, millions of people, inspiring people, etc. I just knew I needed to develop from the inside out. So when I got out of prison, I went into corporate America for several years, became a national sales trainer, did a lot of really cool stuff, became an entrepreneur. And it was about 3 years ago that I just felt like something was missing in my life. Even though I was having success and I was doing well, I just didn't feel like I was living out my purpose, if you would. I know there's probably a lot of people watching this today that, they may be doing well in life, but maybe there's something missing. And maybe they're, they just don't feel like they're fulfilling whatever their legacy or whatever their mark is going to be that they leave on this world. And that's kind of where I was at. Is I was like, I feel like there's something I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know what it is. And I began to pray about it, and I began to search. And I'll tell you how the speaking career got started. I actually, obviously I was doing a lot of speaking in corporate America, but that was different. I was a national sales trainer. I was in, after I left corporate America, I was in direct sales for several years, and I was speaking on stages all over the place, but not in the fashion that I am now. I was just speaking for the company that I was working for. I wasn't speaking in general to the masses, So I was at a networking event one day, and I met a guy, and he said, let's do coffee. I want to find out more about your business. And again, long story short, sat down, shared my story with him, shared my testimony with him. And he said, Steve, I want to feature your story in my magazine. So my story went into a magazine. It was a large publication, went out to hundreds of thousands of people. And when that magazine hit the shelves, the phone started to ring, the email started to blow up like it was crazy. People were wanting me to come speak at their company, their church, their youth group, their leadership conference. I mean, you name it across the board. I was out speaking 5-6 times a week. I was about a year into it. My wife's like, honey, I love this. I love that you're out inspiring the masses, but are you ever going to make any money at this? And I said, yeah, I guess I need to figure that out, right? So I began to really dig into the professional speaking industry because, you see, I had been praying prior to that meeting with that gentleman that wanted to put my story in the magazine. I've been saying, God, reveal to me what it is. What is it that you want me to do? What am I supposed to be doing? What is my purpose? And it all just really began to unfold right then and there extremely quickly. And I was almost thrusted into this professional speaking industry. And it wasn't something I was searching for. It wasn't something I was planning for. It was just, honestly, it was divine intervention as far as I'm concerned. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go out. I've gifted you with this ability to inspire people, and you're going to use it on a very large scale. So has it been an easy road? Absolutely not. But if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Right.
So, I've just been digging in the trenches here for the past 3 or 4 years and really studying my industry, getting my name out there, and just speaking every opportunity that I can, and just doing what I do, man, inspiring people.
Absolutely, that is outstanding. Absolutely, and it's interesting and amazing that with just one little article, boom, the door just opens wide and things begin to happen.
Oh yeah.
After having been through an amazing struggle. Both in prison and then coming out afterwards and really kind of reinventing yourself, so to speak, and trying to find a place where you could land. It's very difficult for people who have come out of the justice system to qualify to even get a job. So it's a tough deal. But you came through that, and then now some wonderful things are happening. And of course, I was blessed to hear you at a meeting not too long ago where you talked about, and I've seen this video before. You talked about the 212 degrees and the temperature of water changing into steam and water boiling, and the difference between hot water and the power of steam to run a locomotive, and how you did that in terms of you went that extra mile while you had plenty of time on your hands, quite frankly,
Right.
to study to show yourself approved, basically. So, talk for just a moment about this concept of this 212 degrees, the split seconds difference in professional athletes in NASCAR racing, which is one of my favorite things to be interested in.
Yeah. NASCAR is awesome, man. So yeah, the 212 degree concept, obviously I didn't create that. It was a book that was written by a gentleman by the name of Sam Parker. And it's a short book. It's a great read. Like literally you could sit down and read it in 20 minutes. But it's a phenomenal book because it's built on the premise that, at 211 degrees, water is extremely hot. But at 212 degrees, just that 1 degree difference, that water starts to boil. That boiling water produces steam, and steam's powerful enough to push a locomotive. So literally just that 1 degree difference is the difference between, warm and boiling, producing steam, etc. So, when you look all across the board, I mean, especially in sports or anything, you look at, the men's 100 meter in the Olympics, 0.17 seconds difference between gold and silver, just that fraction of a second difference between first and second. And, what I realized as I've traveled and spoken and worked with entrepreneurs and business owners and been in masterminds, et cetera, what I know when I walk into a room, David, any room, it doesn't matter what room I walk into. I could walk into a high school to speak to high school students, and I know that 99% of them are not really given that extra degree in their life. They're not given that extra degree in their schoolwork. They're all capable of being valedictorians, right? Some of them are just applying themselves a little bit more than others. I know when I walk into a multi-million-dollar mastermind that there are millionaires in that room that still aren't giving that extra degree in their business, in their life, in their relationships, etc. I know that when I walk into a church and speak, that there are Christians that are not giving that extra degree in their faith, in their spirituality, in their relationship. So it doesn't matter what venue I go into. I know that most of the people in that room have another level that they could be playing at in their life. So it's very powerful when you can inspire people to just get that extra degree out of themselves, just to push that little bit harder, to do that next thing that most people aren't willing to do. Then, it was Tony Robbins that said, you're not going to experience true joy in your life until you step up your game. In other words, until you start really performing at the level that you're capable of performing at, you're not going to experience true joy, because deep down inside, we all know I'm not giving this my best. I'm not giving my marriage my best. I'm not giving my relationship with my kids my best. I'm not giving my business the attention it deserves. I'm not giving my best. And that's why so many people walk through life nowadays just not experiencing that joy and fulfillment that they could, because they're not giving that extra degree. So I started doing this keynote last year, David, because I got contracted by a large company here in the Tampa Bay area, a large trucking company, and they wanted to roll out a theme for that year for their company. And the CEO of the company had just got done reading the book 212 Degrees. And it was funny because, obviously I'd read this book years ago and it resonated with me so much, but I didn't have a keynote around that concept. I had many other keynotes, but not one around that 212 degree concept. So when this CEO asked me to come in and do a speech, and he wanted me to kind of do it around this 212 theme, because that's what they were going to roll out to their company. So I created a keynote speech around the 212 degree concept. And man, you heard it. Like it's awesome, right?
Oh yeah, but very powerful. You had that room on fire and excited just to think through that. And you mentioned earlier on divine intervention, but there is something that ties together when you make that extra effort, and there's someone that comes along. There's a force that comes alongside of you and inside of you, if you will, that just doors open.
Yeah.
Doors open. It's really amazing, and especially with all the issues and the turmoil among high school students these days, and the culture that we live in. This is, as you mentioned, it's not taught in schools.
No.
It needs to be, and there's it's amazing in the midst of what seems to be the worst of times. And of course, I actually lived through the 1960s. I actually remember the 60s. As the old,
I wasn't around yet, bro. Sorry.
As the old joke goes, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there.
That's awesome.
But having said that, it seems like in the worst of times, the best of things can happen, and even in your own personal life, as you mentioned, that's really exactly what happened over time, of course, and with your effort of being diligent and doing what you needed to do. So you wrote a book about this whole thing called From Prison to Purpose. What a great title, because if we could all grab a hold of our own personal purpose, we're not sheep, we're not all to be the same, but we each have a God-given purpose, and if we could only identify that. And so tell me about your book.
Well, again, not something I set out to do. It was, the people, I was out speaking and sharing my story and doing my thing. And people just kept coming up to me going, when are you going to write the book? When are you going to write the book? When are you going to write the book? And it just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And finally, I'm like, okay, God, I'll write the book, right? So I began to write the book, and I played around with it for a while. I wasn't super focused on it. And I went to an event one day, and this is why I always preach to people. The power of going to seminars it's extraordinary. And I was at a seminar one day, and there was a speaker on stage. And mind you, I had been working on this book for months, just playing around with it. I'd write a few paragraphs, take 2 or 3 weeks off. I just wasn't focused. I wasn't serious about it. And I went to this seminar, and this speaker got up, and he was talking about publishing a book. And he started listing out all the reasons why you should write a book. And one of the ones that just resonated with me was legacy. And I thought about it. I got 4 children, David, 13-year-old, 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old, 3 girls, and the last one's a boy. Never give up. That's my motto. And, as he started to talk about this, I began to think about this. And I was like, wait a second, here's an opportunity for my story to continue to impact people for years and years and years to come. My grandchildren's grandchildren, if God leaves us around here that long, will have the opportunity to read my story, to get my words of inspiration, my encouragement, my nuggets for them way after I'm gone. People in other states, cities, countries have an opportunity to read those nuggets, when I'm nowhere around. So for me, that was really the shift that said, okay, you know what? I got to get this done. I got to get this done. Tomorrow's not promised to us. I want to get this story, this message in writing now, get it published, and get the ball rolling. So that's how the book came about. It is called From Prison to Purpose. And in the book, I lay out, I talk a little bit about my story again. I tell some behind the scenes story, more stories about what life inside prison was like. Matter of fact, I have people that come to me all the time. They're like, man, I wish you would have told some more of those prison stories. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what it was about. So yeah. So I do get into, prison life a little bit and share my story, and I elaborate on that. And then I elaborate on some of the issues that I ran into when I got out of prison and how I overcame those. And basically what I do in that book is I lay out the blueprint that God laid out for me in my life to help me come to realize what my purpose was, where my gifts and talents were going to play into me going and fulfilling whatever my purpose was on this earth. And in doing that, I came to realize what my purpose was. And it was a very fulfilling, freeing process. So I lay out that entire blueprint in the book. So for anybody that's not sure what direction they should be headed in, what their purpose is on this earth, what their mark is going to be, what their legacy is going to be, what they're going to live behind, or what they're supposed to be doing, then this is a book that could help them find the answer. Matter of fact, the tagline or the subtitle on the book is A Journey to Answering Life's Greatest Question. So I encourage everybody to get a book. The testimonies have flown in like crazy. This book is being distributed amongst prisons all over the world, jailhouses, churches. I mean, it's just been, I get phone calls and texts and emails all the time from people just on the other side of the world reading this book saying, man, this book changed my life. So it's just, again, divine intervention, man. So now I'm hooked. I'm working on book number 2 and book number 3 simultaneously right now. And then I've got a whiteboard laid out. I'm just going to keep writing books until I take my last breath, man, because it's a very cool thing.
That is very powerful. And I'm with you. I learned a long time ago about the power of investing in myself. And I'm sure that in your speaking, you encourage people to invest in themselves. And you got some really cool tools and products, so to speak, ability to influence.
I want to interject here for one more second, David. We're in a society right now where, everything is very fast. It's microwavable. We can get all of our information very quickly right in front of us. But I can tell you right now, nothing beats sitting down, having some quiet time, clearing your schedule, and actually cracking open a book and reading it. This is the book that I'm reading right now, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. Leaders are readers and readers are leaders, and we are in a place right now where so many people they're just going 90 miles a minute in their life. But there is a power in sitting down, cracking open a book, reading the pages, and just falling deeply into whatever information it is that you're absorbing. Sometimes when we go so quick and we're trying to watch a quick video, or we're trying to do this, or we're trying to get a nugget here, or we want to listen to an audio book, but we're not really paying attention because we're looking at what's going on out the window, retaining the information. So I just want to throw that in there, man, because I see so many people that are like, oh, I don't read. What? You don't read? Well, how are you ever going to get to the next level?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for interjecting that. I've always said leaders are readers, and even if you don't plan on being a leader, read anyway.
That's right.
But you're absolutely right. The e-readers have become popular, but I was just talking to a gentleman earlier this week who said that he also, something about the physical book, that you can touch it, you can feel it, you can slow down, meditate, think about it, write in it, write in the margins, as I like to do.
Oh, yeah.
In my favorite book of all time, I like to write in the margins. It's an old book, by the way.
I started a library here at my house probably a little over a year ago, and I've just been collecting books and adding them to the library. And what I do is, and I'll tell you why I do this, because I don't know if you know who Tony Dungy is.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a friend of my buddy Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. So most people know who Tony Dungy is. He was the Super Bowl coach for the Colts, and he lives here in Tampa. And he goes to my church. Well, I had a lady that came to me not long ago and told me that she had read my book, and I was like, fantastic. She's like, yeah. She's like, I was going through Tony Dungy's library, and your book was in his library. And I said, really? How about that? That's pretty cool, right? And she said, yeah. She said, when Tony does Bible studies at his house, and when people are at his house for Bible studies, he tells them, listen, you can take any book out of the library that you want to read it, just make sure you bring it back to me. And she said, and I was going through his library, and I came across your book, and the title of it just grabbed my attention. And she goes, I'm glad it did, because it was an amazing book. So she told me that story, which was kind of cool testimonial, but I started thinking about it, because I do a lot of masterminds here at my house. And so now what I did, I started, after that happened, I said, you know what, I'm building a big library at the house. So I've got a library going here at the house, and I've got hundreds of books. And now when people come over for a mastermind, I tell them, hey, listen, you guys can have any book you want. Go read it. Just make sure you bring it back to me. So I'm doing the Tony Dungy approach. And it's pretty cool, too, because people have been taking books and reading them. And yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
That is so funny because you can see my little bookshelf behind me, and I actually gave away a bunch of books because my wife said we can't haul them around anymore.
Get all these books around.
But but a friend of mine who just graduated from Stanford a couple years ago, he was over. He says, "Have you actually read those books, or are those just for looks?" I says actually, yes, I've read almost all of them from cover to cover.
Well, it's funny because, I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of traveling. And anytime somebody, has a book, they always want to come give me their book, right? And I do the same thing. So I'm like, sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Give me that book, and it goes right in the library. And if I get an opportunity to read it, I'm going to get to it, But yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That is a great idea. And quite frankly, I kind of did what you did, where I'd been piddling around writing this book about the power of encouragement for like a dozen years, maybe or a little bit less. Finally, I invested in an intensive 3-day weekend down in San Diego with a friend of mine named Mike. And all of a sudden I came out of that, and within 6 months I had gotten the book published.
You were fired up, man, weren't you?
Yeah, I was
telling you, those events are powerful, man. They will light a fire under your butt, man, and get you off the bench and get you in the game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and the relationships at events, it above and beyond the speakers, which are almost always fantastic, but just getting to know other people and the relationships and sharing stuff and how things work in our lives. So
networking opportunities, man, they're big ones.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what would you say is one of the most powerful tools that you use to expand your brand, Steve?
Well, it's funny. You just brought it up, networking. I'm old school, man. I've always been a knee-to-knee, belly-to-belly kind of guy when it comes to developing relationships. And obviously, I utilize social media and technology. You have to, right? You've got to be on Facebook. You got to be on Instagram, and you got to be on LinkedIn. You got to be using the platforms. You got to be using the technology. Video obviously is huge. It's a great way to get your message out to the masses now. But, I feel like we cannot discredit the good old-fashioned getting out in your community, shaking hands, loving on people, developing lifelong, long-term relationships. I've always built my business through the art of networking, and now it's something that I teach. I've become what I consider, a master networker. I understand networking. I know how to go to events. I know how to find the right people at that event and shake the right hands and develop those relationships. I know how to progress those relationships to the next level to where they become mutually beneficial for both me and the person that I'm networking with as well. And so when you say tools, I think that my handshake is still the most powerful tool that I have available to me. My handshake and my smile and my sincerity in wanting to help people that I meet, complete strangers, help them go to the next level, whatever that level might be. So networking, number one tool for me, it always will be. Yes, I'm doing all this stuff on the internet. Yes, I'm doing all the other marketing stuff because you have to, or you get left behind. But for me, still, number one tool, getting out in the community, making a name for myself, shaking hands with people, and networking.
As we like to say, us politicians, shaking hands and kissing babies. So
yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny that you brought up the politicians because I brought this up the other day when I was doing a mastermind session. If you look, this is a perfect example. If you look at the last election that we had, okay? Both candidates were able to use social media in a big way. And of course, I'm not talking about the controversial stuff. I'm just talking about having social media accessible to them to get their message out there. But they were still on tour. They still went from city to city, in person, shaking hands, talking to people. Why? Because that is still really, really important. I believe that we're at a place in our society right now. We're in a dangerous time where we have gotten very good at connecting without connecting. I mean, most of the people that are going to watch this video right now, you may have thousands of friends on social media. You may have hundreds of thousands of people that are following you, but how connected really are you to those individuals?
Right.
Are those individuals going to show up at your funeral if you pass away tomorrow? Like, who's going to be at your celebration of life when you take your last breath? We've gotten real good at connecting without connecting with people. And I think that anybody and everybody that's watching this, you need to keep at the forefront of your mind that you still, no matter how engaged you are in social media marketing or internet marketing or whatever, you still need to go out and market your business by loving on people in your community.
Yeah, exactly. That is you hit on a powerful point right there, because here's the problem right here. We got our face stuck in our phone. We have friends where we're busy. I had a guy walking on a sidewalk the other day because he didn't even notice I was there. He had his face in his phone.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy, man. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but mine's been buzzing the whole time we've been on. Like, I'm fighting myself right now not to look at it.
No, yeah. Oh no, I understand completely. Yeah. So, of course, the old joke is that the statistics show that 7 people will show up at your funeral unless it's raining, and then it's less.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But legacy, speaking of legacy, you're leaving a legacy right now, even as we speak, and I know that you won't take any credit for it because you know the source of your power in your life. But the fact is, we all leave a legacy. The question is it positive or is it negative? And that's the choice that we've all got to make. And you've made obviously the right choice. So how can people get a hold of your book, by the way, before we get too far along here?
Well, they can go directly to my website, stevehopperinternational.com. They can also go to stevehopperspeaks.com. And, I've got, there in the products tab on my website is, some of the products that I've got, the book. I've got some audio CDs there as well. And some other cool stuff. And of course, we're working on some cool stuff now. I just finished up the $100,000 handshake online course, which is a 6-week online course, total of over 30 videos, 10 to 15 minute videos each day for 6 weeks, teaching every aspect you can think of when it comes to how to go out and network your business properly. So we're super excited about that. So there's some information on the website there about the $100,000 handshake online course as well. So yeah, man, a lot of cool stuff. But go to the website, stevehopperinternational.com.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So what is the future for Steve Hopper?
Well, that's a great question. And, I have people ask me this all the time. And, they say, Steve, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I always chuckle at that question because I didn't see myself here 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I had a totally different plan, right? So God has put me where he wanted me to be, and I believe that 10 years from now, I will be where God wants me to be. So what does that look like? I have no idea. But I will tell you this, that as far as a planning, I'm not sitting around waiting for God to say, okay, here. He does that on his own. Anyways, I'm still moving forward, and he'll guide me through that path along the way. I'll make mistakes. He'll say, no, not over there, over here, stay focused, all that good stuff, because I know how it works. But, my goal, my dream is to become one of the top speakers in the world. And I believe that God's gifted me with that ability. I've had numerous people, more than numerous actually, come up to me and say, Steve, like, you're the best I've ever heard. Like, you've got the potential to be that guy. And that's a desire in my heart. I want to inspire as many people as I can inspire before I leave this world. And so my mission right now is to just get myself out there. It's to let everybody know who Steve Hopper is. Let everybody know that I'm here. Give me a shot to come into your company, your leadership convention. give me that opportunity to come in and light those people up and just show you what I'm made of. And as I continue to do that, and I continue to progress in that direction, I believe 10 years from now, I will be one of the top speakers out there. So that's what I believe the future holds. Now, again, like I said, God could have a completely different plan, but that's what I'm working diligently for. That's what I'm running to the sink to brush my teeth every morning for, because that's the kind of legacy that I want to leave behind. So.
And the point you made is that you're not exactly sitting on your hands waiting for a lightning bolt from heaven or anything like that.
No,
you're working, you're inspired, and the new ideas come, the new goals and the new plans, and you're working on a couple of books right now, and you've got a lot of things lined up in terms of speaking. But we want to help our listeners and help you, because I work a lot with local businesses here in the Silicon Valley. We've got the mega corporations and all the big buck types of things going on are surrounded here by, you name it, Apple and Google and Facebook right down the street. But there's hundreds and hundreds of local small business owners, family-owned businesses, who they need the kind of things that you teach and share and the principles that you have. So we want to invite everybody who listens to our broadcast today to connect with Steve Hopper and get to know him, and the relationship thing, that missing connection that you talked about with the $100,000 handshake. Just that course alone's got to be worth $1 million when you think about it, for someone to go through that course and get the principles it's really getting back to the basics. When you think about it, going back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going backwards to relationship building to go forward. Now, as you know, with all the internet marketing things and tools that you're using, the old people, as you know, the old story is people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. And so the whole concept, even online now, is going back to creating a relationship where people know, like, and trust you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Dave, I want to say something real quick about that course. We actually have that course right now. It's completed, it's done, it's there, it's ready. But we have it in a pilot phase right now. And last week, I released the course to, I did an early access release to just a very small group of people. We have not released it to the masses yet. So we've released it to a very small group of people. We discounted it hugely for them, because we want them to go through the course. We want them to give their feedback and all that. So here's what I'm going to do today, because they're not going to access the course if they go to Steve Hopper International, because, again, we have it in a pilot phase right now where we've only released it to a select group of people. So if anybody watches this and they want to take advantage of that early access to the $100,000 handshake online course, have them email me at steve@stevehopperinternational.com. Again, that's steve@stevehopperinternational.com. If you would like to have that early access to the $100,000 handshake at that very big discounted price, send me an email. And because you guys are watching Dave's show here today, I'll make that happen for you. I'll get with my people and we'll make that happen. So I just want to throw that out there right now and let everybody know, because it is a game-changing course.
Thank you so much. That's very generous, Steve. I really appreciate that. I know our viewers will appreciate that as well. So they need to email steve@stevehopper.com. Do you want them to put anything?
SteveHopperInternational.com.
Steve@stevehopper.
Yeah, do you want to know that SteveHopper.com is going to some guy in Jacksonville? He has it forwarded to his LinkedIn page and he wouldn't sell it to me. Can you believe that, man? Like, seriously.
There's a guy named DavidHenning.com who's a bass player in a band in Phoenix, so I couldn't get that. Oh, no, I have. What do I have? I have DavidHenning.com. He's got DaveHenning.com. So don't go there. Listen to some music. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
I'll email you at the correct email address, and I'll be giving that out as well as we distribute this program today. Do you want them to put something maybe in the subject line to identify that they saw you here? so that you can identify?
Oh yeah, absolutely. David Hitting's show, 100K online course. So
Something like that.
yeah, and
Great.
I'll let my assistant know that we should be getting some crazy looking emails coming in that have something to do with your show and the $100,000. We'll figure it out. Don't worry, we'll make it happen.
Okay, cool.
You can just send an email that says, "Hey, I want the course," and we'll hook it up. So
very cool, very awesome. Well, it has been a joy and a pleasure to have this conversation with you today, Steve. So let me ask you this: as we kind of wrap things up today, what is the best piece of advice you could give listeners today?
Best piece of advice I would give is to never stop searching for what it is that you have been put here to do. I believe that we all have a purpose. I believe we've all been gifted with certain abilities and talents and gifts. And I don't believe that we were given all of those things to not do anything with them. So no matter what your current situation is right now, no matter what level of success you are at, you could be thriving right now and you could be struggling right now. It doesn't really matter. There is another level. There is another a thing that you could be doing in your business and life to really get that true joy and fulfillment. And my advice to you would be, take those dreams that you had at one point in your life that you stuck up on the shelf, that have collected dust, take them off, wipe that dust off of them, take a hardcore look at them again, and say, is this really still what I want? If it is, then spend every waking moment going after it and making it happen. Don't stop searching for your purpose. Search for it wholeheartedly. Ask God for guidance in doing that. And I promise you, you will start to see amazing things happen in your life that could turn everything around for you, or just take you to that next level that you've been looking to go to.
My guest today has been Steve Hopper with SteveHopperInternational.com. And Steve, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and investing in our viewers and in the world. And I pray that will return to you 100-fold yourself as you
I'm sure it will.
Keep on going. So great to be with you. I'm Dave Henning, executive coach with the John Maxwell team. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you on next time on our next podcast. So have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.